Hello everybody, this is Ty Davidson.
I'm Junior Vanatta, and this is our presentation on the Fleagle game.
The Fleagle family was a nice family who lived in Iowa and moved to Kansas. In 1880, Ralph Fleagle was born. In 1890, Jake Fleagle was born. After a few years, Jake and Ralph moved around a lot and committed crimes, which were mostly small bank robberies. Jake's first arrest was in Oklahoma, when at some point they wanted to rob banks. Their headquarters was their family homestead in Garden City, Kansas, until they got a place for themselves. Some sources say Ralph buried his money in many places in California, and $100,000 is still missing to this day. The Fleagle gang were brothers Ralph and Jake Fleagle, Howard Heavy Royston, and George Abishire. They were 60% of bank robberies in the 1920s and mostly robbed banks in Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, and California. June 30th, 1927, 4 men robbed the First National Bank in Kinsley, getting $12,000 and a hostage. It was a quiet afternoon when 2 armed men barged through the back door with a lookout stationed at the front door, and a wheelman kept the getaway car. They tried to grab 2 hostages, a male and a female, but the female put up a fight, so they left her behind. They got away and went to Nettletown and left the male hostage there. Another robbery was on Wednesday, May 23, 1928. The First National Bank in Lamar opened at 1 o'clock, but 10 minutes later, 4 men entered with guns. They also robbed banks in Larned and Lewis, but were known as the Fleagle Gang after the Lamar robbery. Now we will talk about the downfall of the Fleagle Gang and Jake. During the Lamar robbery, they were hollering and telling people to put their hands up. One person didn't. It was the bank president. Instead, he ducked behind a desk and pulled out a .45 he called Old Betsy. The bank president was Ian Parrish. With his .45, he shot Royston in the jaw. Then Jake shot the president and his son, who tried to defend him. They got $223,065 in total, and put them in pillowcases and got 2 hostages. One of the hostages was used as a meat shield and put on the running board so that they could shoot at the pursuing sheriff's car, and they got away. Their getaway vehicle was a 1927 Buickmaster 6. They released the hostages on the running board, who had one arm from being a World War I veteran, but they kept the other hostage and released him somewhere in Kansas. When they got to Kansas, they needed to treat Royston, so they went to a doctor, W. Weingern, in Dayton. They told Dr. Weingern a farmhand's foot had been crushed. The doctor accepted and went to the location, and Jake rode with him. While riding with the doctor, Jake tried to put the window up, but it was stuck. The doctor told him you have to pull it toward you, and Jake did, and got the window up, but left one big fingerprint of his index finger on the window. When they got to the hideout, the doctor didn't find a farmhand, but the injured Royston. They ordered the doctor to treat him.
The doctor did treat him, but they killed him the next morning by shooting him, pushing him into his car, and pushing his car down a ravine near Scott City. Before they pushed the car down the ravine, they carefully wiped the car down for fingerprints, though Jake forgot about the fingerprint on the window. It took 13 months before the police found the body and the car. The police found the fingerprint and matched it to that of Jake Fleagle's. This is surprisingly the first time a single fingerprint was used to crack a case. After analyzing the fingerprint, the police went to the Fleagle homestead, questioned Jacob Fleagle, the father, and their brothers. The brothers were arrested, and the police learned Ralph was sending mail to his kin. So agents waited at the post office and nabbed him when he was going to send mail. Ralph turned in Abshire and Royston. For the release of his brothers, and the police agreed. So Ralph, Abshire, and Royston were convicted of many crimes, mostly murder, and died on the gallows in the penitentiary of Colorado State on various dates in July 1930. No one knows the exact day. Before dying, they confessed to all the bank robberies, however, was still at large. October that year, the low-learned Jake was living in a shack in the woods in Regia. Mo Little was hiding under the name Walter Cook with a friend, and they were known as the Cook brothers, who were chicken farmers. They lived as peaceful, roughly calm chicken farmers. For many months, Jake was have a problem with writing and had a weird capital D. So he was mailing a letter, and a PO employer noticed the weird capital D on the letter, addressed to a man in California. Jake wanted to meet the guy to place an ad in the Wichita Eagle. The man was pressed by law to accept it and did. Jake accepted to meet the man in Yeovil Ark on October 19th. When Jake was boarding the train in Branson, right before he could take his seat, several lawmen were on him. Jake reached for his gun and tried to shoot, but before he could, he was shot in the abdomen by an officer. In Jake's final hour, he called out for his mother. He died the next day. Jake and Ralph are both buried in the Valley View Cemetery in Garden City, Kansas. Jake's full name was Jacob Harrison Fleagle, and Ralph's full name was Ralph Ingen Fleagle. Thanks for listening to us talk about the Fleagle game.